Hey there, scary people, and welcome back to the One Scary Woman YouTube channel, where this year we are finishing those screenplays and we are making those feature films. Now today I want to talk a little bit about designing your characters. So this month we have been in our screenplay writing mode, and it's very, very important to give you a couple tips and tricks for designing characters that are going to work well. This is going to help you get great actors to sign on to your project, and this is also going to make your project that much more fascinating and engaging when you have an interesting character. So my number one piece of advice when you go to write those characters, don't just have a vague idea in your head of what you want them to be like. Before you start, sit down and plan out what you think their central character traits are going to be. And I recommend picking 3 or 5, 3 to 5. So in real life, people are very, very multi-layered. We have tons and tons of traits. Some of our traits may even conflict with some of our other traits. That's sort of how people are. People are very complex. However, in a script, you can't just fit in endless character traits for a character, because instead of coming across as realistic, that character is just going to come across as confusing. So think about the top 3 to 5 traits you want that character to have, so that when you go ahead and you start to actually write your dialogue, this is actually going to make things easy on you. You want every line of their dialogue to relate back to one of their traits in some way. This is going to make them a very clearly drawn character, clear, interesting, well-designed. Now, 2 other tips and tricks I will give you. The second one, when you are planning out these character traits, please don't fall into the trap of making each of their character traits nice. So the mistake a lot of writers make, especially when they have a main character that they want to be likable, is that they think every single one of their traits has to be a likable trait. So when they're listing out those traits, they might put kind, friendly, helpful, not that those are bad traits and not that you can't have some of them, but if every single trait of that character is something falling into that kind of category, chances are that's not going to be a very interesting character. You want to pick at least one trait that gives them some kind of flaw or depth or something about them that's a little bit more interesting. And keep in mind, they can still be a good person, even if they are flawed or have something that makes them more interesting. Maybe they're so polite that they can never speak up for themselves. So can't speak up for themselves could be a trait. All of a sudden, that is something more interesting than simply saying that they are polite. Being polite to a fault, being a polite to their own detriment, takes them to a different level. So don't fall into that trap of thinking every single trait about your likable character has to be perfect and or likable. Now, the last and third tip and trick I'm going to give you is to think, when you're designing these character traits, about all the multiple characters that you have in your story and how you want these characters to interact with each other. And what I love about this is that it's very much like when you think about real life. So how do people interact? Chances are, if 2 people are drawn together in friendship or in a romance, they have some really core traits that are really valuable to them that actually overlap. They share some traits and it pulls them together. Likewise, if you have 2 people that are repelled from each other, that really dislike each other in scripts and in real life, chances are they have at least one trait or more that's a very important trait to them that is in direct opposition to some trait the other person has. So there's some value they have that the other person disrespects or flaunts. This is going to push them apart. So think about the dynamics between your characters when you're choosing their character traits, and make sure that you choose their traits so that those characters are designed to either be attracted to each other. That doesn't have to mean romance, but even just in terms of friendship, respect, basic liking each other, or they are repelled away from each other, dislike each other, even hate each other maybe, depending on how much their traits conflict. All right, if you want to go even deeper with this, check out my course down below. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave in the comments any tips and tricks that you have used creating your characters.